Let's bring our main man in here, man. Tony Pauline joins the show. Can't thank him enough. Tony, how you doing, brother?
Okay, thanks for having me. I wasn't overly accurate last night, but that's okay.
I don't think anybody was. Yeah, I don't think anybody was, other than me saying Shedeur wouldn't get drafted in the first round. Where are you at with what's going on here in the second round? Cleveland's 2 of the first 4, correct? I know you've already made your mocks on pretty much every round I think you've done, but where you at with round 2 as it starts here in a few hours?
I think what's interesting with Cleveland is, do they take a quarterback at the top of round 2? Or do they say, well, we got that extra first-round pick in 2026. We're going to wait. And if they do take a quarterback, which one is it going to be? I mean, obviously, Shedeur Sanders is still out there. We can talk about him. Jalen Milroe's still out there, a guy that's got incredible talent and incredible upside. Tyler Shuck is still out there. They got their interior pass rusher last night? Do they go for another guy on the outside edge rusher? Do they take a running back? So Cleveland with those 2 early picks in round 2, it's going to be interesting, especially at the quarterback spot, because a lot of people, including myself, thought that this would be the area where they would take a signal caller.
That's a good point, Smitty. He makes a great point to me, because that's what I was saying earlier. I don't know if you're going to get from underneath what's currently going on there with Deshaun Watson, the contract cap, all that shit, I think weighs heavily on this decision. And you make a great point. I said the same thing. Next year's class, to me, is much better. I think this class for quarterbacks is not a good one at all. I think it's actually one of the worst ones I've seen. Next year is a better one. I think you're going to be in a similar predicament unless you go out and win with Flacco. I don't know how you're going to go out here and win 10, 11, 12 games and not draft in a similar fashion next year, right?
I mean, it depends, yes. And now they have that extra first-round pick. It's the advantage of taking a quarterback at the top of round 2 with Jalen Milroe, somebody like that, is he's basically going to sit behind Flacco for a year, and he can learn. And they've won before with Joe Flacco, so there's no reason to think that they can't do it again. But again, and you mentioned on paper, the quarterback class in 2026 looks much better, but things don't always work out on paper, come to fruition, as we've seen. I mean, you look at this year's quarterback class. We thought that Jalen Milroe would have been a much better prospect, should have been a first-round pick. Never happened. There's the Shedeur Sanders story. I mean, did not play all that well in 2024. He's on the outside looking in. So, yes, it looks great on paper, but that doesn't always translate once the season starts.
No doubt.
For sure. I know you are the Jags expert as well. Were you surprised at all about them trading up to grab Travis, or did you kind of have some insight going into the draft that could be a possibility?
I had reported all along, not for Travis Hunter, but their draft strategy really throughout this entire selection process is they were going to look to draft as many skilled players and playmakers to surround Trevor Lawrence with as much talent as possible as they could. They probably should have done it a long time ago rather than waiting now. But that was their objective, which is why everyone thought Ashton Genty. Did I have an inkling that they were going to move up to get Travis Hunter? No, I'd be a liar if I said they did. But they got a potential premier player, a potential outstanding wide receiver to pair with the kid from LSU that they took last year. Brian, exactly. Now they gave away a lot, so Travis Hunter better produce and better live up to expectations. Because when you give away that much draft capital for a player like Travis Hunter, if it doesn't work out, that's what gets people fired.
Do you think, based upon them giving away so much to go get him, that they're probably going to allow him to try to play both sides, like in your opinion?
I think he's a receiver first and primarily a receiver. Maybe they put him on the field in dime packages. Maybe they put him on the field as a return specialist. Is he going to be a full-time two-way player? No one's going to be able to do that in the NFL. Travis Hunter or anybody else.
No doubt. I agree with you. So Cleveland has the first pick today. You'd be shocked if they take QB.
I don't know that I would be shocked. I mean, they've got that pick and they have the 36th pick. I think it's got to be a consideration because, like I said, any QB that they take at the top of round 2 they're not going to ask to start week one. You've got Flacco there, which I thought was probably their best offseason move. They probably should have done it early on. I think they just didn't want to eat crow because of letting Flacco go in 2024.
Right.
I think it's got to be a consideration. I think offensive line has got to be a consideration. I think running back's got to be a consideration. Eventually an edge rusher.
Yeah, I feel like they need so much. Let me ask you this. Going back, I guess, to yesterday, to round one, for you, what were the biggest surprises, or if any, of any guys that got picked up? I know one name that comes to my mind is Emeka Ibuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. A lot of people didn't see him getting drafted so early. But for you, were there anybody who stood out?
Yeah, Ibuka wasn't a surprise to me because I thought Green Bay could take him at 23. I thought Houston was going to look at him at 25. It was a surprise because Tampa really didn't make any noise about him. He didn't go visit Tampa on a private visit. He didn't play in the Senior Bowl because Ohio State was in that national championship game. Him being in the first round was not a surprise. To Tampa Bay was a bit of a surprise. Obviously, I think that that Jacksonville trading up was a bit of a surprise. I think Carolina taking Ted McMillan was a surprise, but for me, it was a good surprise because I am a huge fan of McMillan. I think he's a game controlling receiver. He's a smart receiver. I thought he was being underrated outside scouting circles. So I really thought that Carolina really did a good job with that selection. I mean, some of the guys that went later on in the first round, the tackle from the Kansas City took from Ohio State, Josh Simmons. He was getting first-round grades. I like Tyleik Williams, the big interior defensive tackle. There weren't any crazy third-round guys on my board that ended up in the first round. I think Will Johnson not going in the first round was a surprise, but he has the injury situation. I think Nick Emenawari, the big safety, the athletic safety from South Carolina, being on the outside looking in the first round was a bit of a surprise, but I'm sure teams look at him, 6'3", 220 pounds. Yes, he's a great athlete, but where are we going to use him? Is he a safety? Is he a one-gap linebacker? Is he a free safety? Is he a strong safety? That was a bit of a surprise. Michael Green not going in the late part of round one, despite all the off-the-field issues, was also a bit of a surprise.
I love it, man. So, man, let me ask you this. Going back to McMillan real quick, you said you're pretty high on him. Do you think McMillan is the best receiver out of this draft here?
He was always rated as the top receiver on my draft board, bar none. I thought he was top 5 talent at one point in time. I came off of that a little bit after the 40. But just watch the Arizona film. The past 2 years, the guy has been a dominant a dominant game controlling receiver. Opponents knew the ball was going to be thrown in his way. They couldn't stop him. He's also smart. I mean, he's a smart guy that does a great job reading defenses, finding the open spot, setting up his defender, and finding ways to separate.
So why do you think there was so many critics that's I feel like in the recent months just going at him and finding reasons why you shouldn't draft him so high? I feel like in leading up to the draft, only thing I was seeing on my timeline was little negative shots at the reasons why. He doesn't watch film and all this noise.
Well, he made that comment a couple of years ago, which didn't sit well. I think what happens is, with the draft being so far away from the combine and pro day workouts, people tend to find ways to manufacture holes in players' games that really don't exist. And, this is a year-long project for me. I mean, in 2 weeks, I'll start watching film to get ready for the 2026 draft. So I base it on a year's worth of film, and I have sometimes 2-3 years of notes on these guys. I think some of these people will watch a few YouTube highlights, and then they follow along. Whatever one person says, everybody else just follows along.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something real quick. The Giants, I want you to help me make it make sense here. There has to be some sort of gentleman's agreement behind closed doors that Brian Daboll is going to get an extended period of time here for him to take a QB and draft and move up with some picks and movement here. And then you take Jackson Dart, which is telling to me, is what I've kind of been alluding to with Shedeur, but they got a lot of holes here in New York with the Giants. I don't see why you take a Q at that spot when you move up. I think you make a better roster decision and fill a hole. Am I missing something here?
I am of your. I agree with you, and I was actually at the Giants facility for more than 3 hours on Wednesday night. It was a ghost town. We did a bunch of stuff there. I tend to agree with you, but I think both the owner and the front office realize that they need to get a quarterback there for the future, and they like Jackson Dart. And really, they didn't give away that much. I mean, they gave away, I think it was the 99th pick in tonight's day 2, which was a compensatory pick, gave away a 3rd rounder and some late round picks. So overall, I would agree with you. But you look at the price that the Giants paid to move up and get a quarterback compared to what Jacksonville paid to move up and get Travis Hunter. I thought it was a good move by the Giants. And the fact is this, they signed Russell Wilson for a year. The media in this town is going to concentrate on Abdul Carter. They're not going to be concentrating on Jackson Dart because Jackson Dart is not expected to be a week 1 starter. So I think, the move was good. Now the question is, can they develop Jackson Dart? Can they basically help him progress and improve his game to be the Giants starting quarterback of the future? That's something we don't know.
And Vinny, the gabagool himself, they ain't going to hold 4. So he's probably going to be moved or shipped or released, right? At this point.
Who's that?
Vinny DaVincio or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you would think so. I mean, yeah. The chicken cutlet guy, right? I mean, he's a novelty. I mean, he's basically a fan favorite, but yeah, he's not you would think so. In my opinion, he got he was in the right place at the right time. He's just not an NFL starting quarterback.
What do you think? Go ahead. I got a quick question about the Steelers. Like, what do you think the Steelers are going to do, or what's their plan for quarterback? Like, the fact that they didn't go QB, is that like a telltale sign that Aaron Rodgers, you think, is probably like behind closed doors, he's going there, or what's your take?
No, because even if they had drafted Shedeur Sanders with the 21st pick, you're not relying on Shedeur Sanders to be your week 1 starter in 2025. If you were, it's more worse things could happen than good things, because this is a veteran team that needs a leader at the quarterback position. I think the further it goes along, I think the less the Steelers even want to deal with the headache of Aaron Rodgers. That's what I had written basically a week and a half before the draft, that he's becoming a headache that they don't want to deal with as this drags on. I mean, you got to look at Kirk Cousins. I mean, would they trade for Kirk Cousins? You got to feel that eventually Atlanta's going to want to move him. That could come in a couple of weeks. I think the Kirk Cousins trade will come down to the team that is willing to pay the lion's share of his salary. That's got to be an option as well.
Let me ask you this real quick. Dallas holds the 44th pick, I believe, today, which is the first few picks. They didn't make a splash trade up. They didn't do some things Jerry Jones alluded to. It's like shit or get out the pot time for this this organization, right? Like, what are they going to do here? Are they going to – I mean, there's not really much movement. They're going to move up, and they got the pick right after, Cleveland, those first few. What do the Dallas Cowboys need? They need O-line. They need – another.
Well, they don't need now.
They got a guard. They good. They got 3 Tylers, right? Tyler Booger, Tyler Guyton, and Tyler Smith.
Yeah, but it's going to be hard to replace Zach Martin. I like the guard grab, but they need another outside guy for Dak to go along with CD. I think they got to get a big-time running back of some sort or get Young. Where do they go here?
They got Dowdle. He's all right.
Well, you just mentioned 2 positions. I mean, does Luther Burden, the receiver from Missouri, happen to fall to them when they select a 44? If it's not Luther Burden, could it be one of the Ohio State running backs, either Quinshawn Junkins or Travion Henderson? I know that they want another defensive lineman, so that is a position that I think they could look at. Either a skill player or defensive line, I would suspect, for the Cowboys with the 44th pick of the draft.
Nice. And then Smitty's Colts are 45 today. They got Tyler Warren. Obviously, they got AR5 and Daniel Jones now, so that's solidified. They probably don't go Q unless you think they are in the market for a Q down the line here. With there's only been 2.
I think we go backer, corner. I think backer in my opinion.
Could be linebacker with Carson Schlesinger. I know that they want to get another offensive lineman in there. Yeah. Jonas Savianea of Arizona, that would be a good selection for them. They also need a safety. If Nick Emenawari is still there, what do they think of him? Would they take Emenawari? Is he a good fit for their system?
Like it. a popular choice here and a team that is obviously along with the America's team and the Cowboys are the Raiders. The Raiders always have a following. They're at number 37 today, right out the gate here. What do you think Pete Carroll does at 73 years old? He's got to win now. I don't believe he's going to go after a Q. I don't believe he's going to do – I think he's going after things that make their team better now, similar to what I thought the Giants should do. Where do you think the Raiders are moving?
I don't think a quarterback's out of the question. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is out of the question there because even with Geno Smith, they need somebody to groom for the future. And who better to groom Shedeur Sanders than Geno Smith, a guy who, when he was in the draft, was projected as a first rounder, ended up in the second round, muddled around the league, finally had some success late in the career. So I would not discount that. They need offensive linemen and they need receivers. I mean, the team really doesn't have a number one receiver.
They have no receivers. Thank you.
So they take Ashton Genty. You got Geno Smith there. You better protect him and you better give him some weapons to throw to. There's a lot of problems with the Raiders. They have a left tackle who's holding out. Christian Wilkins, there's problems with his foot, which I wrote about earlier this week, which I thought may have forced them to take Mason Graham, who was selected right before they were called to the clock. So there's a lot of issues going on with the Raiders.
Interesting. We don't want to ask you about every team, but there's some teams that are popular. I got to ask you about a team that fell a little short after having a great, phenomenal season last year. They get rid of their quarterback and Sam Darnold. The Vikings, they got number 38 today, right after the Raiders. Where do they go? They're obviously a team full of depth, and they have a lot of great moving parts already. What are they missing, I guess, that they can grab in the second round to get back relevant?
They took the offensive lineman last night. I think they got to look cornerback. Now, this is not a good cornerback draft, because of injuries and other issues. Is Will Johnson there? Is the kid is Benjamin Morrison of Notre Dame there? Do you roll the dice with those guys? Terrific players in 2022, 2023, prospects that we thought, could potentially be top 10 picks. Both of them were injured. They've got injury red flags. They didn't play well, but the Vikings always seem to be in need of a cornerback, so that's a position where they could look towards.
You mentioned Will Johnson, Smitty. Are you surprised he fell out of round one? Was it the injuries? What was it? And are you surprised if he don't go quickly today?
Well, obviously the big issues were the injuries. I wrote about that a couple days before the draft. He's got a knee issue, which is a concern. And the fact is, he didn't really play well when he was on the field last season. He played about 7 games. They played him backed off the line of scrimmage. I know he had a turf toe injury as well last season. At times, he just looked very disinterested. I think he's going to go within the first 10 to 15 picks today. If he doesn't, that means that those injuries are major. The problem with the cornerback position, you look at some of the guys that have come out of, especially Ohio State, Eli Apple, players like that. When you are coming into the draft at the cornerback position off of a bad season, sometimes it's a very tough hill to climb to get back to the top to where people thought you should be and would be.
Interesting.
No, it definitely is, man. It definitely is. If you had to pick, I mean, it's only been one round. So, but I guess up from the first round, who would you say were the biggest winners, biggest losers of the first round so far?
I mean, still early. I think the Giants with Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart are big winners. The fact is this: the league is quarterback crazy, but I've been in the draft business for more than close to 30 years. And there was a time 20 years ago where teams wanted that impact defensive player. That was the coveted spot when you came to the draft. That's exactly what the Giants got with Abdul Carter. I thought the Jets getting Armand Membu with the 7th selection. They needed a right tackle. I think Membu is going to turn out to be the best offensive lineman in this year's draft. He's got that much upside. Plus, he's a good player. I already mentioned the Panthers with Ted McMillan. The Falcons is interesting. They get Jalen Walker, which I thought was great value at 15. Then they move back into the first round to select James Pierce. They give away a first-round pick in 2026. So it's a bit of a gamble. But if Pierce and Jalen Walker can play up to their potential, can really realize and become the players everybody thinks they can be, wow. I mean, Atlanta's hit a home run with 2 outstanding pass rushers.
No doubt. Where are you at in this whole thing with the QB position in Pittsburgh if Aaron Rodgers and Tomlin don't have a gentleman's agreement handshake behind closed doors that we don't know about? And are they going to go after a Kirk Cousins or somebody like that? Or are they going to still be in the market here for a youngster?
I think both. I think, number one, as I said before, once Kirk Cousins is on the trading block, I do believe the Steelers will be active. And as I said previously, I think Kirk Cousins will go to the team that's willing to eat most of his salary that's due him in 2025. I also do believe that at some point in time, either today or round 4, the Steelers will address the quarterback position. I know they like Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, but again, a guy like McCord, he's going to have to sit on the bench for at least a year and learn to really develop his game. No quarterback that the Steelers drafted, whether it was Shedeur Sanders at 21 or anybody on day 2, they expect to be a week 1 starter.
Let me ask you about this. So if I'm wrong, I don't know, but did Kirk Cousins not get re-signed to some sort of monies in Atlanta to stay? And are you hearing that he will be on the block after OTAs?
Yeah, I think I'm not an expert on it, but I know that they paid him the $10 million signing bonus, and I think that there is a date where and I may need to be corrected on this. I'm a draft guy. There's a date where the no trade clause ends, and he can be traded. I believe it's like the first week of May, so it's soon after the draft.
Interesting. Our producer said they would have to pay us $27.8 million or something like that.
Right, and whichever team is willing to pay the lion's share of that is the team that the Falcons will trade Cousins to.
Interesting. This is a deep running back class. We thought it was a great pass rushing class, running back class. Those were probably the 2 deepest. Lighter on the QB and wide receiver crew. We've seen a lot of O-line, D-line taken. Surprised in that regard at all? And the lack of wideouts, kind of what we expected in the QB room. You expect this to change second round?
Well, first of all, am I surprised about the offensive lineman going early? No, that's the offensive. Everyone talks about the quarterbacks. Yet it's defensive linemen, cornerbacks, and offensive linemen are always a priority on draft day. You need 5 good offensive linemen. Most teams barely have 3 or 4. So that's why they are selected in such large numbers. As far as the running backs are concerned, I only expected 2 running backs to come off the board in round 1. I think you may see a half dozen or more come off the board within the next 2 rounds on day 2.
Damn. Great insight, man. Any shot at all Trevor Lawrence is not your quarterback next year?
Well, I don't know. I'm not. I do a lot of work with Jacksonville, but I'm in New York, so I think most of these moves are geared, or the move for Ashton Genty, and I think moves over the course of the next 2 days. I think the Jaguars will take a running back at some point in the draft. They're all geared towards improving Trevor Lawrence's game and really getting him to the level everyone thought he would be when he was selected in 2021, when he was, I believe, rightfully or justifiably anointed as a franchise quarterback.
No doubt. Yeah. Man, great insight, man. Everybody make sure you guys go follow him on X. And what else you got going real quick? So let everybody know.
Yeah, at sportskeeda.com, we'll have a lot of notes leading. In fact, I was writing them before I hopped on your show as to what to expect today. We'll have some post-draft reviews. Those are always fun. Which players went higher than everyone thought, which players fell and why they fell. And then we'll have a couple of team-by-team reviews May and June before we start to gear up for the 2026 draft.
That's never crazy, stop. Man. It never stops. So let's keep it going. So
yeah. Man, Tony, I can't thank you enough for hopping on a Friday, man. And hopefully we can get you on again during the season or something.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of the draft.
You too, bro. Have a good one.